Testing, testing. All right. All right. The Pullman heating water system inspection, water supply system, water system on the 20th County Series parlor baggage lounge cars consist of two separate systems for the hot and cold water for the lady of the men's public toilet that is supplied from overheads of the various fixtures are fed with the gravity. Beholding the hot and cold water with the buff, the fixture for the drawing room with the conventional air with the pressure type with the hot water with these fixtures is supplied with the McDonald dual thermal hot water supply system. McDonald dual hot water supply system used on the car to comply with the new United States Public Health Service regulation. Here is shown in figure 156, 157, and 158. Installed with the box located with the under of the car on side with the enclosure and removal of the provide accessible equipment. Addition with their access pan with the removal of the side of the riveting circulating pump. 3. Removal of the pan with the other side with the provide access with the low water cutoff switch. The 140-degree thermostat with thermal emulator control of the flow of the air in with the steam and emission valve with the fan well thermo switch the control of the operation 140-degree solenoid valve. This system is developed with the two water heater for the first heater rated with the temperature for the supply with the water tank to 140 degrees for general use. Second heater rated with 140 degrees water to the 190 degrees for the heat with the glass washer for the rains water. And operation system required with a minimum 40 pounds with the steam with the train line with the 40 pounds of air, 40 pounds of water pressure, electrical current with 110 volt for the site and 60 cycle with a single phase AC. Water refer to figures 156, 157, and 158 piping diagram figure 159 water through the car water tank and its pipe. The gate type of the shutoff valve located in the heater box through the fall flow filter number 29 on the filter over the water with the hose with the gate valve of the lower cutoff system, which include the McDonald Miller low water cutoff switch number 32 with a 4-inch diameter tank with a crane number 976, 1/2 inch air vent valve with number 31. The valve operated with the relief of the lower water cutoff switch with the air might which enter with the piping. When the water of the car water tank of the fall at the lower level, the fall filter is vented with the Hoffman number 79 air vent valve with number 18. The function of the low water cutoff switch is number 32 with its automatically closed with a 2 solenoid valve with the hot water lines, all hot water outlets whenever the water tank is almost exhausted. The low water cutoff tank cutoff flow is actuated that opens with the trick with the 2 solenoid valves. When there is insufficient water to fill the float chamber, the 1 solenoid valve with control of the 140-degree water is located with the line behind the surge tank with the number 37 and the other located with the buff under the sink with the control of over the 190-degree water to the glass washer. Cold water, after passing with the low water cutoff valve, flows through the check valve that prevents any of the backflow of the water over the heater. The water enters the inlet port with the first water heater. 140-degree hot water jacket, the number 15, located with the back of the box, figure 157. From the outlet port with the heater, water flows with 1 inch of the copper tube with the thermal unit. The power is number 356. Thermostat type of the valve, the air valve, number 25. Insert the breeze valve, the control of the in-valve rod, which opens and closes the valve, metering of the required amount of air and the air actuated power steam. The emission valve, the number 17. Opening and closing maintained with the temperature of the water flowing with the heater and approximately 140 degrees. The 140 degrees water flow now flows to the 2.5 gallon surge tank with the number 37. The surge tank that acts as the reservoir with the mixing with the heated water with the watts. The number 36 vacuum breaker is installed with the line between the powers of the thermostatic air valve with the 140 degrees surge tank to prevent any siphoning water out of the surge tank with any of the variation temperature of the water caught over and under the shouting of the thermal control with the taking of the car care of the tank from the outlet port with the surge tank with the line branches through the T. One branch is flow through the strain, then to the automatic solenoid valve type A size 1.5. Number 12 hot water fixture brought to the drawing room with the solenoid valve with the energized open and under the control of the bolt for the high temperature cutoff switch with the opens with the 170 degree low water cutoff switch, which opens shortly before the car water turns with the runoff of the water with the closing the solenoid valve with the second branch with the T through the check valve with the thence inlet port with a 190 degree water heater. Alright, show the gauge of figure 156. Gauge reducer pressure, steam pressurized, and this figure 157, 158. Alright, it's true steam. Refer to figure 156, 157, the 158 piping diagram. 160 steam is taken from the train line with the through the 124 shut off with the drain valve with the end of the system with the least strain with the pressure reducing valve with the 1/4 inch glass with the L3 with the number 27 with the producer with the steam with the train line pressure the 40 psi. The producer with the steam with the steam train with the equipped with the blow off valve with the 2 with the powers air operated diaphragm the type of the stream with the emission valve with the number 16, 17 emission valve with the bowl spring with low with the closed Open the air pressure for which air operator of the two valve with the control of the power thermostatically air valve with the powers reverse acting with the operator with the gradual relay of the number 9 and 10. In the event of the air failure, both valves will be closed with the steam will prevent the flowing of the water heater and the steam leaving the admission valve will flow through the jack of the water heater with the crane number 981 bucket trap with the number 28 the U with the train. Get on and saving each heater. Alright, the air. Refer to figure 156, 157, and 158, pipe diagram 161. Air operation of the system with taken with the governor and reduce the which of the 40 psi with the separating fitting with the governor and reducer valve of the air pipe with the power of the number 200 sediment, the water trap with the number 4. Trap air go with the pressure gauge with the number 3 with the slow with the setting of the governor and reducer to 40 psi, then to the watt number to the number 26 reducing valve with number 5. Wherever it is reduced with the 20 psi, then through with the number 30L with the water blow off valve with the number 6 which separately blow off at 28 psi, the gauge with number 7, which located with the line next to the blow off of the valve with indicate with the reduced pressure of the air. At this point, with the 20 psi with the air divided with the 3 branches with the inch of the two powers, reserving action gradual relay the number 9 and 10 with one of the both the power thermostatic valve with the number 25 and the 24. Arm air leaving the thermostatic relay, turning in the additional port with the powers reverse of the actual gradual relays flowers. After passing through the relay with the power reversing acting the steam and emission valve with the power reversing action, acting gradual relays operate with the junction with the two power thermostatic valve with the supply with the control of the flow of the steam and the water heat with the action accomplish controlling the amount of the air supply with the diaphragm of the power reversing acting the steam and emission valve with the number 16, 7 engaged with the number 8 provided with the bolt slab with each of the air relay. The operation of the air circuit of the system is followed with the temperature with the water rise with the power thermostat with the air increase with the delivered with the thermostat with the piping connect with the relay pipe connection the relay with the operator with the degree of the pressure with the line between the relay connection and the air pipe with the power reversing acting steam and emission valve. The degree of the air pressure for the begins with the diaphragm allow with the spring tension for the valve with the gradually close of the valve with the stopping of the flow of the stream of the water heat with the temperature of the water flows below with the power thermostat as setting with the degree of the air pressure delivered from the thermostat pipe connection the relay piping connection. This relay operates with the increase of the pressure with the line with the between the relay connection the air pipe with the power with the reversing acting steam and emission valve with the increase of the air pressure with the beginning of the diaphragm force of the valve opening allowing with the steam to flow to the water heater. Or electrical. Refer to figure 162 with electrical components include with the one solenoid valve with a 140 degree water line with a lower water cut switch for the temperature, steam pressure switch, air pressure switch, water temperature for the switch with a 140 degree water with a circulating pump with a 190 degree loop, which are all located with the water heating under the car. Minute control of the units are located within the buffer located in the buffer that consists of the solenoid valve with control of the valve with the 190 degree with the glass washer, timer motor, the time switch, the monetary contact with which the start of the time motor with the time motor with the time switch with the monetary contact switch with the glass washer, the 140 degree solenoid valve connected with the series with the high temperature cutout switch, fan well number 18,000. Number 819, low water cutoff switch with the contact with the high temperature switch with the high temperature water flowing through the wash basin. Above the fixtures, whenever the water further fixture if it goes above the 170 degree with the lower water cutoff is also seared within the 190 degree solenoid valve. Allow them to low water cutoff. No hot water is available to prevent either 140 degrees or 190 degree water being drawn to the system where there is no cold water to replace it. Two pressure switches been in the lap of this Honeywell with the type of 404F pressure trolls, one air with the one steam with the connected with the series with the 190 degree circulating pump. The steam pressure switch must be set at close 15 pound with the air pressure switch at close with the 10 pound with the differential with the switches. The 21 pound with the air pressure with the reducer goes above 31 pounds. The switch will open the high pressure cutout and circulating pump with the wheel stop the running with the event with either steam or air pressure falls below the value of the pump of this motor circuit with the wheel be open. The pump will stop running with the furnace automatic control of the pump with no relay with the stop or start switches are used. Show the monetary contact switch, the time motor, the timer switch, the 190 degree solenoid, the glass washer, the 140 degree solenoid, the T-low, TS and LP relay, the circulating pump relay, SP and AP relay, and circuit breaker. The AP relay is the air pressure with the 10 pounds of pressure. Steam pressure, STP, makes the 15 pounds of steam. LW, the water cutoff for proper water level. And TS, the thermals, opens with temperature at 170 degrees. Alright, switch service to operation water filter. The full flow model with the WX3BR8 filter shown in figure 163 is used with the filter all the water supply with the end to the buffer. The honeycomb filter tubes are renewed once a month. The instruction of the operation are covered in figure 163. 2 Hoffman number to 79 air vent valve with the prevent air blocking. Valve is shown in figure 164. Opens with these valve locked with the cover of the full flow filter with number 18. The other located with the sinker of the buffer of the high point with the circulating loop. Lower water cutoff. The lower water cutoff switch is floated to operate with the contact should be kept clean with the spring mechanism loose enough to operate freely with the figure 165 show with the detail of the siphon bell over the eliminating the packing around with the stem and the leaks around fully bound around over the air with the new bellows should be applied with a McDonald stamp action twin switch. Two set terminals provided, however, only one side of the U with do not change with the adjusting screw of the E as is shown in figure 165. Screw is U with the initial factory adjustment of the setting of the switch operating level that correspond with the mark of the floating half of the low water cutter switch. Terminals 1 and 2 open the water flow falls to the limit line of the body casting the cove of the water comes to the 5/8 of an inch above this mark. Therefore, the lower water cutout with the operates before the water in the water tank is completely exhausted. Renew siphon bellow with the remove of the 8 hex gap, screw with the figure 165 holding the head of the body with the take off the head, unscrew the flat and rod with the assembly with the bellow with the remove of the 4 round slotted head, screw with the hot. Hold the flat cover the large base box with figure B, figure 165. This will enable you to remove the entire top half, include the switch with the exposed with the 4 slot, the head cap, screw with the C. Remove these slotted screws with the take off the base box with the remove of the 6 cap socket and head screw. Cap screws D with which will allow the bell to be removed and install the new bells and assembly reassemble. Crate number 976, the air vent valve was shown figure 166. That is probably the lower water cutoff system. The operation of the valve, the base of the rise of the floating reading. Resting over the water chamber. When the chamber is filled with the water, with the float, with the buoyant, being kept at the rate of the position, with which keep the air outlet of the clove with the water level, the flow of the float drop the air by opening with the air outlet, allowing the air to vent with the incoming water fills the float chamber, the float again with the raise of the closing of the valve, the opening of the valve with the inspection drain with the water, remove the once from the bolts around with the edge of the cover of the pry up the blade, and this will unspool the inner mechanism of the valve with any of the renewal adjustment part of the repair of this part. Assembling, make sure the point of the disc aligned with the edge of the valve seat, after which it will find its true position. Shut inlet with the outlet valve, remove the covered nut, lock nut 1 with the covered 3, and be careful not to damage the lock nut gasket 2 with the top shell with gasket 4. Remove shell 5 without being careful not to damage the bottom shell gasket 6 with the remove of the discard U with the honeycomb filter 12 that have no salvage value. White base 7 and 8 clean with the round with the base between the bottom of the sheet plate with the B, and as clean with the metal part with the filter hoop tube holders 11 of the top seal seat plate 13 compression spring 14 spacer 15 insert filter tube 11 on and each bottom seat plate B, and the place the new filter 12 on each of the filter tube bowl holder. Make sure the bottom shell gasket is stick with the perfect condition. If the top there's U with the new one properly with the C with the base with the plate with the shell with the 5 with the make sure with the C with the carefully again to the bottom of the shell gasket. Placing the top seat plate 13 compression spring 14 with the top of each of the filter tubes. Make sure with the spring is snapped in to groove on the seat plate with the 6. Inspect with the cover to make sure with the top shell gasket 4 lock nut gasket 2 properly see with the there groove with the perfect condition and with the new gasket replace with the cover and fill with the carefully not to tip with any of the compression spring with the vertical. Place cover lock nut with the 1 with the screw down careful to make sure with the top shell gasket and then seats against the top of the shell. Then tighten lock nut securely, open inlet outlet valves, check for leaks, and it shows you there on the little the filter. Section A, 1/4 inch pipe tapping floating needle with the gasket with the universal joint with the CI shell of the brass chip float with the CI base for the gasket, and then the float and support with the pipe thread with the siphon. Figure 165 show with the 4 round slat screw with the 4 round socket head screw with the 4 A6 head on the C of the cap screw with the and the do not disturb adjustments. The figure 167 show of the strand of the body cap of the seat and bushing bowl, disc of the fulcrum, support of the float, lever of the ball float with the fulcrum rod, gasket bolts, and nuts and cotter pin. Alright, the air valve with Halfman. Hoffman number 79 with the further figure 164 with the vent valve with the air with the water line with the full filter with the figure 190 water line inlet buff with the solenoid valve showing the 167 the automatic type of the A. You with the control of the flow with the 140 degree with the buff of the drawing room with there is with the clearance with the clearing self-cleaning restrainer and a head with the which with it shown figure 168. Valve contained with the 2 major components with the electrically operated with the pilot valve with the mechanically operated with the main valve with the valve with the normally closed with the energized open. The operation of the valve is valve when energized with the constant with the low water cutoff switch with the high temperature with the cutout switch with the pilot valve with lifting cause of the pressure on the top of the piston with the outlet side of the valve with the sense of the portion piston or with the large of the time orifice pressure over the lower side of the piston with the strain greater of the force of the piston opening of the main valve. When the coil of the pilot valve with this energized with the pilot with the valve the drop of the pilot see with the closing of the piston or if the pressure builds up at the bottom of the top of the piston main valve closes. Should the valve fail to open, check with the pair any of the more with the following call the no line pressure of the valve, low voltage bad connection, cool, boring out, pilot tube to disrobe the coil assembly, dislocated pilot valve seat, warp at the plugged 1,100% back pressure in line foreign material in the valve, failure to close may be caused with the pilot tube to disrobe the foreign matter under the valve disc worn and valve seat damaged, piston ring distorted, piston spring broken and missing. Water heaters figure in 169 show the cross section of the bell with a gasket with the view 45-2, instantaneous heaters within the system, self-cleaning strainer powers. For the figure 168, the strainer should be blown through the blow-off valve with monthly. The strainer should be removed and inspected yearly. Alright, show the blow-off valves and the strainer body and screen. And then we'll flip this around and I'll show you this figure 167. If I ever get there. Alright, show the cover cap of the coil, cover cap of the and the screen washer nameplate with the garments for the coil end of the plate, the coil with the coil cover, the pilot valve with the assembly coil end of the plate, cylinder cap of the piston spring, piston rings, timing screw with the pilot valve seat with the piston, valve disc, valve body, valve disc screw, and then bottom plug. Alright, then we're going to rotate this bitch right to the left. Alright, show the steam inlet, steam bafflet tube is supported with the tube bundle with a condensating outlet with the remove of the tube with the bundle with the assembly, the hot water and outlet and the water heater type U45-2. Alright, your vacuum breaker water, the number 36 with the referred figure 170 with the single with the volume with the vacuum break with the only mate with the required with the light, and will be cleaning with the shove of the remove of the disc and with the vent with the water passing through the breaker, the temperature cutout switch and shown figure 171 with the parental number 18,000 with the control with adjusting with the has been set with 170 degrees referred to figure 171 with the temperature shell with the extend as the point of the A move toward with the B tension of the contact with the D energized 140 degrees somewhere above the temperature drop shell with the control. Contract the points A to move away from the point B, allow the contact with the to clove. Note extreme temperature, overshoot with the wood fractional elemental assembly temperature, adjusting sleeve, the further figure 172 with the switch with the depth of the rotation of the adjusting sleeve, hollow screen have the differential with the internal external thread ratio, with the outside of the three threads of the sleeve of the mate with the thread out of the head with the thermal switch valve with the internal threads engage the stub of the differential valve with the two threads result in the linear movement of the stub when adjusting the sleeve with the rotate of the stub with the permanently mount with the element with the cannot rotate. Renewing adjusting sleeve with the damage with the damage of the adjusting sleeve with it should be renewed upon reinsertion of the sleeve of the possible the two undesired effects operating with the switch after the future and thereby leaving the adjusting sleeve with too far to the extent not operation of the switch but with the sleeve of the head but screwed in so far that it is bottom internally. The connection, even the condition, first connection from the first switch of the shear with the lamp to be able to determine the room temperature operating point will replace the sleeve with its valves. If the switch operates too soon, after the inserting of the sleeve with unscrew the sleeve with it sufficiently just so far that it's free from the outside of the thread through unscrew with one additional term of the thread, push the sleeve in the thermal switch engage with the outer sleeve. Threaded with the properly done with the sleeve of the wheel screw with the 18 with the 28 turn with the before operation. The switch is not operated because of the sleeve of the head has bottom and unscrewed with the until sleeve of the clear pull the sleeve of that out with approximately 1/32 of the inch of the screw with the sleeve down with the shove with at least one turn before aligning with the outside of the threads of the sleeve to engage with its manually necessary to repeat his operations A and B to screw with the desired results. When assembling with veneer screw with never turn any more with the required number of the turns past with the room temperature of the set point with the point where the test light goes on and off with the room temperature. This is necessary for the reach for the desired temperature setting. To increase the temperature setting of the turn with the adjusting screw with the sleeve counterclockwise. One complete turn sleeve is equal to 80 degrees change. Lead valve Lincolnheimer number 8986 with the refer to 173 valve function for the prevent the overpressure for the 190 degree surge angle is to set below with the off at the 60 psi. Valve starts to open at 60 psi with gradually continue with the full operation. 72 psi with adjusting pressure drop of the valve start with the clove of the valve with approximately set pressure. To shove the room with the cap loosen with the regulating screw with the lockdown with the regulating screw down to increase the pressure for the tail to the reduce the pressure for the setting is obtained the tighten lockdown and replace the cap. Figure 174 with the water watts regulated with the which for the replace with the Lincolnheimer valves. Alright, show the contact close the anchor pin with the non-expanded shell with the wall insulation, expanded shell and stud with the contact points and the temperature for the adjusting sleeve, the thermostat switch head and clockwise rotation adjusting sleeve with the stud. Show the valve head, top plug, basket, diaphragm, disc washer, disc screw, disc body. From the left, we start with the regulating screw, lock nut, upper spring plate with a spring stem of the bell, lower spring plate with a spring holder, lock pin with the disc, spring holder, and then on the left, we start with a lever, cotter pin, bracket with blacking nut, Steel cap with adjusting screw with adjusting nut, the seal gasket with the bonnet, with the spring washer bonnet and adjusting spring with the bowl, rod pull nut, disc hole with the disc guide, fusible plug, bellows, flip sleeve, the bellows, body, bellows, stem, adjusting screw, and Watts relief valve, for the Watts relief valve. Alright, circulating pump at the oil with the refer to figure 175 with the 176 with the bearing with the circulating with the pump with the motor with the provide oil cup with the tube with the motor bearing with the one or more pump bearing with the air should be filled with the once oil month. If the circulating water pump, the head spin with the out of the service, some of the time sealing water that prevents leak with the pump with the round with the drive shaft with which is maintained and the portion with the coil spring with the free with the C with the if the curves with the except with the friction will develop between the spring and the housing cup with the friction with the sufficient to solve the motor with the coil with the thermal overload protected with the unit operation should it happen. Being necessary to disassemble the pump with the free with the rubber washer prying it away from the EC. When this is done, the improper pump should be rotated freely into the bearing. Special instructions will be found on page 238 through 238 to 244. Figure 175. It shows your motor bracket, coupler, oil well cover, bearing assembly, shaft, seal assembly, impeller nut, gasket, pump body. That's your high HV pump. Service instructions: replace watertight fuel tool seal cap screw. Follow these simple steps. 1. Loosen coupling with the pump shaft. Remove the four motor cap screws holding the motor to the piping bracket. 2. Lift the motor, leaving the coupler attached to the motor shaft. Remove the body and the nuts. To replace the watertight seal, the arrows show the direction of the flow of the roadster and impeller rotation. 3. Now remove the seal with the bracket, pulling the straight out with the caution. Avoid twisting with the wedge, but impeller with the banding shaft with the clearance to maintain with the B and G. Makes utmost pump efficiency, economic, and operational. Show the 4. Loosening impeller nut. We suggest you with the strap wrench for the impeller. Avoid marrying edges. Alternatively, on half of the old coupler end of the shaft with the tighten the set screw. You with the wrench hold the coupler half while removing the impeller nut. Alright, 5. Holding the bracket, holding the bearing bracket slightly raise the table of the bench under the hand of the impeller over the top of the shaft of the wooden mallet with a hammer held ahead of the impeller should slip off. Do not hit the end of the shaft with a hard object. The impeller puller can be purchased from your supplier. To replace watertight seals, continue 6 seal washer springs can be lifted with the following impeller with a small with a brass ring with it should be removed with the valve with a large ring with the seat can be rubbed and can then be removed with a screwdriver with the wire that has been leaked with the bearings of the wick or wickings over the page 7. In the face of the note, in the face of badly corroded score with the new seal bearing not fit tight enough to prevent leaking. In this case, the entire bearing bracket should be replaced. 7. The clean shaft face bracket with the claw with the new seal on the shaft. Use the future of the water lubricant with it until the fits with the sun again with the face of the casting. Place seal spring with the washer found by the improper impeller and the nut. Now be sure with the sharp edge of the shaft to hold with the impeller with the next to the nut with the nut and that around the edge of the shaft to hold against the shoulder shaft. Alright, figure 8 show the arrow show the direction of flow of the replace the bearing body and after placing the new body in the gasket. 9. Tighten the 4 bolt of the nut lightly, evenly with the motor bracket, pushing the coupler half on the pump shaft with the thumb. Replace the motor cap screw. Tighten the screw in the coupler. 10. Tighten the body with the nuts alternatively until snug. Be sure the coupler will be turned off the finger at all time. If possible, run the motor during this operation. Show the 3 oil cups and the body stud nut, and 11 to replace the following 1, 2, and 2 and 9 with a reference for the coupling only. Alright, to replace the rubber ring in the mountings, clamp. 1. Loosen the screws and remove the clap holding rear of the motor. 2. Remove the 4 screws with the slide brackets away from the shown figure 3. Figure 3 show the rubber rings. Pry off the old rings with the screwdriver. Replace with the new rings. Put with the brackets and place the insert of the screws. Remove the figure 2. Tighten clamp on the rear motor, and this is ready for operation. Alright, to replace the oil wicking, the wicking should be replaced with water soaked and saturated. Wrong type of the oil. Remove the oil well covering with the old wicking. Push the new wicking into the bottom of the well. Tuck loose ends of into the open top of the shaft. Insert other wick outside of the well into the bottom. And insert the loose and other opening top of the shaft. Replace oil well cover using springs holding wicking down against shaft. Lubricate. Alright, buddy nut, smooth, bracket, cap, screw, coupler, set, screw, coupler, bag, gasket, flange, gasket, flange, bolt, flange, nut, bearing assembly, body, motor, impeller, nut, body, shaft with the Woodruff Keith steel ring, assembly, bearing, basket with the oil well, covered, oil well, set, screw, ring, bearing, gasket, right, ring, bearing, cap, screen, oil, bearing, oil wicks, and oil wick, well, gasket. Alright, parts, number pumps, part number pumps, and then descriptions. Show the end plate assembly, wound stator assembly, rotor assembly, ring switch by bracket assembly, oil well cover assembly, switch and shaft in, switch plate assembly, bearing cap, packaging cap, screw, motor bolt nut, screw shaft, pneumatic, washer, shaft, steel washer, cupped and rubber washer, protected with a protector retainer clamp. A reducing valve of the Leslie type of the L31 3-1/4 inch. Refer to figure 177. The operation for the hand well, compressed with adjusting screw with the game for the metallic with the diaphragm and opening, controlling valve of the valve, the mid for the high pressure for the inlet body with the bore over the top of the piston, open the main valve with adjusting the reducing pressure for the outlet pipe, the reducing pressure acting with the game for the outlet body of the bore on the underside of the diaphragm, balance for the compression with the spring with the action, throttle with the controlling valve with the control of the reducing pressure with the set valve with any load change, react with the pressure immediately with the diaphragm and instantly reposition with the main valve with the maintaining constant reducing pressure setting. Only chain with the reducer pressure effect with the valve action, the chain with the reducer pressure setting with the turn handle wheel downward to increase with the upward and decrease the pressure. Disassembly. Refer to figure 178 with the release valve with the compression with adjusting spring with the 7th with the turning with the hand screw with the counterclockwise, 2 with the adjusting screw, unscrew with the adjusting screw, unscrew the adjusting spring cave with the take out with the spring 3 and the diaphragm 6 with the unscrew with the controlling valve C, 7 the socket wrench with the remove with the controlling valve with the 8 with the spring 9 after the assembly with the parts to be cleaned and solved with the inspected with the expand with the main with the controlling valve with the to be sure that they remove with the freely in with their guides with the seat properly. If the valve seeing sure that they're scored or regrinding with the fine grinding compound allow with the piston to remain with the cylinder liner with the grinding with the main valve with the ensure perfect centering with the remove of all the trays with the grinding compound before reassembling. Alright, if resilient, inserting the seating surface to score over the outlet, cut slightly, put oil with the controlling valve with the press firmly, again with the insert of the turn several times to remove the defect. Place part with the resilient insert with the heavily scored over the cup. Make sure when the piston rings are free with the groove with the expand with the inch of the cylinder line. Have all working parts move freely with the reassemble the plane in place. 1. Place the main valve with the spring with the gaffley position with the bottom cap of the screw and into the valve body. 2. Piston with the inch of the cylinder with the be sure that movement is smooth and free. Top of the linear must flush with the top of the body flange. 3. Bolt the top of the cap of the body with the U with the new gasket. 4. Assemble the control valve C with the spring into the top cap. Tighten with the controlling valve with the sheet with the socket wrench with the valve assemble them further. Place a straight edge across the dry diaphragm seat with the shown figure to the 177. U with the sealer gauge. Check the clearances between seat with the seat the valve stem with the U with the clearances 1,000 to 5,000 for the inch. The necessary valve with the grind stem with the exhaust clearance. Check the flatness of the diaphragm with the straight edge if the dish is the more than 5,000 inch level to replace with the new diaphragm. Replace with the diaphragm adjusting spring with the spring seat with the spring case spaces. Alright, show the checking of the controlling valve with the stem clearances and then figure 177. And then show the figure 178, show the item numbers. Alright, your thermostatic valve figure 178 operates the valve of the chain with the temperature for the measure for the difference for the length of the between the sense of the tube with the number 27 which has high efficiency expansion for the inverted valve, number 26 which has very low efficiency with the expansion for the high temperature, the temperature adjustment valve knob with the number 4 with the fasten scribble with the number 7 with the number 5 with which divided with into the invert roll rod, number 26 with the 10 pass with the valve spring assembly, number 7 with the exhaust valve with the number 19, valve assembly number 10, seal washer number 11, and spring seat with the number 22 with the supply valve spring 23. Throttle springs assembly number 7 is in with the contact with the dial knob with the exhaust valve C with the temperature with the increase with the sensitivity of the tube with the number 27, increase with the length with the invert rod with the dial knob with the move with the right with those opposed to the throttle spring with the closing the exhaust valve with the opening of the supply valve with the air pressure will build up again for the diaphragm number 21 sufficiently to compensate with the force exerted with the knob number 4 built up with the against for the diaphragm number 21 sufficiently compensate with the force exerted with the number 4 it moves outward because of the thread of the invert rod number 26. Such adjustments to the opening of the tube of the exhaust valve over the supply valve will require the increase of the temperature of the length of the scene and the sensitive of the tube of the number 27. The increase of the temperature control invert rod valve knob with the right of the contact with the exhaust of the supply valve through the medium of the throttle spring with the exhaust valve with the nut. The close of the exhaust valve opening supply valve the note the supply pressure for the seal within the tube bulb air pressure for the return line waste through the exhaust valve with the orifice of and out with the exhaust valve nut. Port number 11 and soft neoprene washer for the which fits the against the operating stem of the seal of the pole through the combination of the supply exhaust valve body with the preventing air supply of the leakage of the exhaust valve nut. The washer maintains constant seal through the pressure conserved with the supply valve spring with the number 23, the spring seat with the number 22. Or setting powers with powers type of the number 356 thermostat. Before testing the setting with the control of the temperature of the 15-minute with the warm-up period with the required with the permanent thermostat with the level up. During the warm-up speed with the periodic check with the following water tank with the 40 psi water with the 40 psi steam, 40 psi air. Check with the air reducer valve. The check with the emission valve with the passing the steam. Those shutting off the air with the steam and the loosening with the outlet side of the valve with the turning on the steam and the no steam. It should be passing. Temperature up the 190-degree water with the read of the holding of the thermometer under the drain with the valve with the 190-degree water loop with the temperature may vary with 180 degrees to 185 degrees with the general the setting with 190-degree thermostat. Initial temperature and initial setting should be slightly below with 180 degrees with the tendency to level out with a higher temperature under some of the conditions. If the reading of the tank is above the 185 degrees with the below 180 degrees, remove the cap, loosen the flat with the head of the screw on the top of the dial with the assembly approximately half turn, then rotate the kernel temperature. Adjusting dial toward warm and cold, the raised lowest temperature of the water, each of the division equally is approximately 5 degrees with the C figure 178A. When adjusting is completely tight with a flat head screw with the while holding the dial assembly to prevent it from turning 140 degrees. Thermostat adjusted in the same manner. Temperature for the 140 degree water may vary from 130 degrees to 140 degrees, and the initial setting thermostat may be approximately 135 degrees when checked with the drawing room basin. Pairs to power set the number of the 356 thermostat. Remove the assembly cup with the snap on. 2. Remove the dial assembly. Remove the flathead screw. 2. 3. Remove the dial bushing. Remove the setting screw inside of the generally pry off the bushing, being carefully not in the bent shaft. 4. Remove the throttle spring assembly. 5. Remove the adjusting screw diaphragm of the dial indicator. 6. Unscrew the operating stem of the inverted rod. 7. Remove the exhaust valve nut. Be careful not to loosen the small parts. 8. Unsolder the sense of the tube with its mounting base. Also unsolder the rod from the tube. This is clean all corrosion of the inverted rod with the ply with the code with the L3, 7, 8 with the primer to clean all the parts with the renew with the defective ones. Reassemble the test and set with the control setting. Controls at 140 degrees with adjusting of the 190 degrees that should be made on the car. Note. When reassembling, be sure to set with the screw with the dial bushing the contact with the upper limit with the operating stem with the before tightening home with the throttle spring with assembly F with the center point with the slot with the proper throttling of the air valve. Reversing actual gradual relay with shown figure 179 with the relay is designed to reverse the action thermostat as to the pressure with the thermostat with increase the pressure with the emission valve with increase the small air pressure gauge that provide with each of the side with each of the reversing acting with the air relay with each gauge with the indicator just what taking place with the air valve portion of the thermostat over the air pressure for the air leaving the reservoir acting gradually relay with the emission valve. Thermostat 0 pounds relay control pressures. Alright, the relay operates above the will be noted with the sum of the thermostat pressure for the relay control power is always about 15 pounds with the relationship cannot be changed within field. Increase the pressure for the thermostat with the transmit with the return port number 6 with the valve with the assembly to move with the right with the action with the open of the exhaust valve with the assembly allowing the air to bleed off. It will continually until the force with the supply spring number 26 with the cancel with the equal the oppositing force with the during do the action of the exhausting spring number 31. Thermostatic pressure for the diaphragm number 17 with the balance of the obtained with both the supply valve and the exhaust valve with the assembly will be closed with the control pressure for the diaphragm valve with the pass through port number 4. Opposite section is true with the degree for the pressure for the thermostat with the degree for the pressure for the will move with the body assembly to the left to keeping the exhaust assembly closed along supply valve with the pass air with air by increase the control pressure. They assume that the balance is obtained with the supply valve will close with the any weight for the move air. Show the temperature adjusting dial each of the division 5 degrees. See the chart and 1/8 minute standard pipe thread with a 3/8 minute standard pipe thread on the rod. Ear valve assembly number 10, the type 356 thermostat. And then show the supply valve, the exhaust valve assembly, reverse acting gradual relay. Alright, your powers, diaphragm and emission valve, refer to figure 1A with the freeze valve, control with the steam, the supply with the water heat, with the operate with the conjunction with the thermostat, with the air relay, with the air press for the diaphragm, raise with the 5 psi, with the valve start with the open, with the air fully open, and approximately the 15 psi, with the air pressure with the valve, with the indicator with the small gauge located with the line between the valve with the air valve, with the air relay, with the air pressure, with the does not increase with the pressure with the opposite side, with the relay to with the indication that the diaphragm may be rushed, with the relay may be leak in the air to line. Check the condition of the disconnect of the air pipe with the valve, with the seal, with the end of the comes with the air valve, with the bridge of the gauge, with the seal, with the air pressure. The rate retaining and register for the normal demand with the outline above. It's of the relay with it is not involved with the not leak. If no leaks can be found with the airline with the rubber, the rubber diaphragm and the steam and emission is probably rupture of the valve should be replaced. With the replace the diaphragm and emission valve, the valve is removed with the cover the found with the passing steam with the disassemble this valve. Do not remove the top of the diaphragm. Remove the bottom nut with the number 37. Leave the top lock nut number 24. Loosen the packing nut number 12. Working on the bottom opening and unscrew with the stem number 21. 1.5 from the diaphragm. 3 inches back, pop the valve with a badly worn wire drawn with a new bolt seat with the pop of the damage with the slight with the pop of the ground into the seat. With the reassemble the test for the stem length of the valve with the start of the open one with the air pressure of the diaphragm chamber to reach of the 5 pounds and renew the diaphragm top assembly. Pelvis steps 1, 2, and above the screw of the valve body to prevent the kicking out of the position with the supply of the vision pressure for the top of the diaphragm to hold the in position with the move of the four bolts to hold the diaphragm to the spider. Place the pressure slow with the spring pressure for the do not throw away the diaphragm cover the injury to the top of the renew the diaphragm assemble the test outline above. Your bucket trap figure 181 cross section steam bucket trap of the trap is fully described on page 159 of the AC manual. I show your bucket trap, the body, the cap, the seating bushing, and the adjusting screw of the fulcrum support floating levered opening float with the fulcrum rod, gasket bolts, and riveted nuts and rivers. Alright, show the valve, the cross adjusting screw, the checking of the spring cage with the spring washer, adjusting spring with the diaphragm gasket, the diaphragm assembly wide, the diaphragm plate with the diaphragm stem, with the disc hole with the disc hole with the disc assembly wide, body pop of the spring with the bottom plate, gasket bottom plate. And that's figure 183 or A1, reducing valve number 26 to refer to figure 199, reduce the pressure build up the valve valves with the scroll closely, probably accumulation of dirt valve and deterioration of the seat with the disc thing. To clean the seventh and renew the disc, remove the bottom plate with the gas, take out with the disc hole with the wipe off the strip with the soft glove with the disc of the worm, replace with the reassemble the disc hole with the bottom of the plug, renew the diaphragm, relieve the compression of the spring with the turning with the adjusting with the screw with the counterclockwise, remove the spring cave with the valve body, remove the spring with the spring washer, take out the stem of the diaphragm, assemble the unscrew with the stem knot, disassemble the stem of the diaphragm and the diaphragm gasket, clean the parts thoroughly with the reassemble with the new gasket and diaphragm, be sure the stem nut is tight and just stem more freely. Do adjust with the turning and adjust with the stem with screw, clockwise increase the spring pressure on the diaphragm through by increase the pressure of the air delivered by the valve, and this is to be delivered in 20 psi. Arch of the 1/2 inch outlet with the upper half of the extension pipe of the upper screen with the sediment, the trap packet with the lower screen with the housing the screen with the gasket, lower housing the key drain cock. Air sediment water trap the freighter figure 182 of the air and enter the top of the trap of the pipe through the sediment packing with the lower portion where the water of the trap. At this point, with the pressure of the force of the air back up through the lower screen, through the sediment packing through the upper screen with the outlet. The lower housing should be blown out with the opening with a pack cock provided with the time with the water filter with the hand with the sediment packing should be cleaned. Solve it once a year after the cleaning inspection and defect of the renew if necessary. I show the lever pin, washer, adjusting screw collar, adjusting locking out the spring cage with the adjusting screw with the spring washer, the adjusting spring, diaphragm, gasket, pull rod, nut, diaphragm, die plate, die scoller, disc screw, diaphragm assembly, Y, and body. The show the type L404 pressure control. Pressure adjusting screw, differential screw, pressure adjusting screw, QSS11C, snap switch, differential adjusting spring, operating lever, pressure setting, differential setting, indicator bell assembly. Alright, blow off the valve, the watts, number to 30L, refer to figure 184, if the valve feet shut it off tightly, cover the probably accumulation of the dirt valve seat with the deterioration of the disc, the clean sheet with the remove the disc, release of the spring with the remove of the pin with the lock, for the top valve with the remove of the lock washer, with the collar, loosen the adjusting screw with the lock nut, turn the pull rail counterclockwise until the pressure is relieved, the spring of the cage with the valve body, take with the one south stem, the diaphragm assembly, remove the disc screw, clean parts thoroughly with the reassembly with the new disc with the diaphragm, and if it's necessary to adjust, turn the adjusting screw with the clockwise, increase the pressure for the diaphragm, thereby increase the pressure necessary for the close of the valve with the blow off. This valve is set to blow off with a 28 psi, but it can be checked with an increase with the setting of the watts, reduced with the set by blowing off accordingly. Air and steam pressure switch for the figure 185 is cut into the air pressure switch with the 10 psi. The air differential 21 psi with the top end of the range of the steam, set with the cut in at 15 psi. The differential of 21 psi with the top end of the range. Alright, draining instruction for the cars equipped with the McDonald DUO thermal water shift the refer to figure 186 with the water filling valve, the handle with the open and drain valve with the face of the water tank inside of the axle with the remove with the side of the McDonald enclosure drain valve with the CD, H and I, J, K, and L and N shown figure 187. No, there is not available to either the storage tank of the yard supply with the ears of the tank of the drain, open the faucet of the hold cold water, operate all of the hopper valves efficiently to permit the gravity drain with the air is available to continue with this valve, close the drain valve with the water tank. Casing the after each tank is drained with the raising handle, the water filling valve will allow the air to blow through the open drain valve. Close the drain valve C, D, H, I, J, K, L, and N. Close off the air through the water raising system of the governor and reduce the blowout with all the basin fast for the buff of the fastest hopper in the drawing room. Open the drain valve with the buff and lock locker under the sink and exhaust all the air system, and they reapply with the side of the McDonald unit enclosure. Close the access door on side of the water tank casing, and apply with the drain tank with water filling without the handle to both sides of the car. Cord mechanical record card. Prepare to drain with the car for the surface of the proposed valve. Close all the drain valves, open air to the governor and reducer, lower filling water valve handle, remove the drain tank, fill the water tank, raise handle, operate all hoppers, faucet, purge air piping, check for the unusual flow of the water under the car record, mechanical record. Alright, that shows figure 186. Alright, your Cunningham glass washer for the machine. Consider the glass flush knob for the drive type of the glass for the scrubbing of the unit with the motor with the control of the glass, the ring compartment, then cool the revolve of the water spray with the magnetic solenoid valve control with the synchronizing electric motor. Drawers provide with the air life and the storage of the brush with the glass flush nozzle, G page 261. Glass scrubber. The glass scrubber is filled with a swing spot faucet with the maintenance of the various parts of the is given below. Greasing the totally enclosed with the ball bearing motor with a pack with the lubricant with the will require with no further lubrication 1 year. Each of the time of the should be packed with a K8875 with the drive shaft of the machine. Are fitted with the almanite pressure for the grease gun fitting that should be greased monthly with a K6362. It's important it's not generally upper bearing, it's in the slide with the supply with the grease of the packing gland with the regular lubricating prevents the excessive hearing of the wearing leaking through the package gland. After greasing with the be sure to allow the grease of the remove the shaft of the hexon packing gland nuts on the brush drums. Accumulated grease eventually gets to the pulley and belts and except the knot and remove each time of the machine is greased. Repacking. If kept properly lubricated, the packing unit should not exceed the replacement of 2 years. The repack will remove the package brush drums of the hexagon nut, remove the packaging spring, with the replace the packaging follower at the top of the shaft. Using sharp pointed instrument, the knife with the ice pick with the be sure of the old packaging, and remove the plate with the packaging ring with the plate with the packaging following spring. Axon nut figure 188, figure 189. The top of the drum shaft should be clean with lubricated outline figure 190. Alright, the belt. Efficient V-belt with the drive depends on not only the belt tension but on the change of the contour of the belt with the cross-section and the path with the groove of this motor and pulley. Tension to determine the position of the motor that can be increased with the sliding of the motors in down to the space of the belt life of the variable depending on the use of the least 12-month. Service should be the same except for the war belt wear indicated that these belts are out of line when the belts are worn out with leakage through the packaging gland shortening belt life. Check with and cover the correct. Glass rinsing compartment, solenoid valve, for figure 191, the magnetic valve with the clue of the trainer switch for the check for the clean monthly, servicing the valve with the entire outline below. To renew the coil with the disconnect coil, remove the screw, top of the terminal cover, lift it up, the coil is removed, then remove the unscrew the nut, shown figure 192, replace with the new coil with the reversing by reverse above. Pre-steps 1, 2, and 3 above shot with the water. Use the open wash, rinse, remove the plunger tool, and replace with the repair valve. Remove the entire solenoid valve assembly. Figure 191. The piping is repeat stems 1 through 2, 3, 4, and 5 above. Insert screw the driver through the back end of the valve as shown in figure 193. Tap with the palm of the hand with the force valve with the cage assembly out. Do not use the plier to pull the assembly out since the machine fitted with it should not be destroyed. The valve cage for the cage assembly has been taken and shown with figure 194. Raised left with the press valve spring with the raised needle off with the C with the clean out with the small stab with the brush and solvent. A, do not unscrew the valve C with the B, C with the C. Same with the tight with the valve will leak of the valve C with the knot screwed up tight. Hold on the unit up into the light with the needle valve sheet with a needle or sheet appear with the pivot with the other bit of wide the damage replaced with the entire new valve cage assembly. For sure all the valve of the gas is good condition properly replaced with the reassembling valve. Figure 195 shows the exploded view of the revolving line assembly which is located with the rinsing compartment, the rinsing assembly power with the car water line, pressure for the contact of the water and pushing. Loosening a set screw with the rinse base with the 153A with the tightening rinse pin 152 with the proper adjustment is made. The water with the revolving rinse for the assembly control with the synchronizing AC motor for the figure 196 with the motor start with the monetary contact switch for the motor. Start with the contact with the jacks or close with the rotation on the timing cam and the motor continue with the run until the jack can contact with the open again the drawing up the operating arm with the reset for the cam. Cam has 4 notches spaced 90 degrees apart around the peripheral ends for the 15 seconds operation. Brush storage and drawer. The drawer is located at the right hand side of the cabinet. It's equipped with a 10 to 12 volt germicidal serial lamp that is transformed to reduce the 120 volt current Required voltage located in the cabinet behind the drawer with the exposed with the transfer the inspection surface is necessary to remove the drawer of the plate of the cabinet. Caution: feed the wire of the tail lamp of the treads for the drawer. After the drawer is removed with the patch plate, several 4 screws will be found with each of the back drawer recesses of the patch plate is removed except for the transformer for servicing. Should the rays of the lamp irritate the skin and affect the eye of the drawer, equip the automatic switch to turn off the lamp when drawer is open. The bullseye provided to check the operation of the lamp when drawer is closed. Self-closing water valve consists of the parts listed with which valve with a complete assembly with a numerical order starting with a rubber top bumper. Or the rubber top bumper is fitted with the release sleeve arm tube with the valve with the remove of the eave of the arm, unscrew the inserting still with the attached with the arm through the hole with the turn section with the top of the bumper, the pushing of the rubber bumper along the alarm arm until the center of the section of the bumper, the fitting with over the center ass section of the release sleeve. After the arm fits with the hole with the end of the section of the bumper, the no insert with the other metal arm into the hole with the opposite of the bumper, screw with the thread and part of the arm into the center section, release sleeve with the insert selection of the bumper over the metal bumper over the end of the metal arm lock ring with the attaches. We sleeve with the slop bracket. Valve plunger 5 fits in the valve seat casing 6 attached to the plunger into base screw 8 with the seat washer 7 fits into the bottom of the section valve seating valve seat casting 6th install with the new seat washing the sure with the complete with the bolt about it with the plunger down the base screw head accurately centered. Spring 9 fits in the cup at the center of the valve bottom center. Casting 10 valve setting casting 6 screws in the valve bottom casting 10. Spring 9 contacts plunger to base screw 8. Valve bottom casing 10, floor casing 11 are connected to the galvanized iron nipple 9. As shown, floor casing 11 extend through bottom tank with lead washer 12. Figure 189, show the bearing bracket clamp, gasket packaging, glad nut packaging, gland follower, gland spring packaging ring, almanite fitting the motor mounting plate, stainless steel drive shaft, thrust collar drive, pulley motor, pulley thrust pole, washer V drive, V drive belt, Balder motor frames. The brush drums should be removed with the shaft at the top of the shaft of the drive pin should be cleaned with a given light coating with a grace for the K6362 semi-monthly prevent freezing of the drum flange of the shaft, and then show the difference of the pack. Your solenoid valve Figure 192 show the unscrewing of the remove the cold valve must be in the horizontal pipeline with the solenoid with the line with the vertical position solenoid case gasket valve needed coupling valve gasket cage and cover gasket level arm valve linkage coil and the plunger tube, and then it showed the raised level of the breath of the needle spring with the cleaning of the needle seating with a small stiff of the brush for the valve cage clean the valve seat do not remove the valve seat screw. Use flat wrench to unscrew the plunger with the valve linkage lever arm with the valve cage assembly of this way. Boss drops into the body slab of the valve cage and coupling, and then it shows the picture 195, figure 195, shows revolving rinsing assembly. Compensate the wear of the bushing and loose inside with the screw of the rinse bay with part 153A, tighten the rinse pin in part 152 until proper adjustment is made. Remove the arm cap nuts occasionally. Clean out arm discharge, hold the length of the arms of 5 3/4 inch. Alright, last page, the McDonald drinking water sterilizer. The McDonald ultraviolet water sterilization connected with the cold water supply line above the feed with the drinking, the faucet with the water drum with the faucet flow through the 4-gallon stainless steel with the tank with the subject with the bacterial saddle ray of the floor ultraviolet standard lamp. These rays sterilize the water in the tanks effectively at 99.9%. The sterilized socket hold the seal through the adapter project into the water. Hold the lamps in the center of the tank towards the point of the rays penetrate the water in all directions. Maximum effectiveness. For the figure F1 for the schematic wire diagram, the sterilizer operates with 110 volts over the 60 cycle AC. The operating voltage lamp with 10 to 12 volts with the rails are supplied with a small step down transform to 1E of the 4 stereo lamps. Isolation transfer of the 1-to-1 ratio. They also provide with the primary connecting the car with a 110 volt supply line, secondary furnishing at 110 volt, the 4 lamp transformer. For placing sterile lamp with the tank must be drained with the drain valve with the valve with the inlet valve, the shuttle valve with the trim with the drain valve with the cover with the water tank with the first globe with the shuttle valve with the open drain valve with the faucet with the should be also be permitted open to permit the tank draining. Bore removing the shaft with the pull of the plug with a receptacle with the unscrew with the entire screw with the and thread fitting of the tank of the flat bar, maybe with the lever off with the screw head to remove the assembly. Tamper projects into the tank at about 4 inches. Should be pulled with the tray out until the stereo lamp are free of the fitting. Stereo lamp may not be replaced with the adapter renewed or screwed into the tank if it was tightened again with the gasket. The thin coat of grease should be applied to the gasket before replacing the adapter. Do not use Shell-Etic or Westinghouse cement on the gasket. It will harden, become in between the gasket and the seat. Caution, do not loosen and remove the screw holdings adapter together when they serve two purposes. One, to provide means for removing the adapter. Two, to hold the watertight cement between the unit. Stereo lamp will give them satisfactory protection with 3 lamps function. There are 4 lamps needed to be replaced with the 2 that have burned out. And this was the Pullman Manual Heating Water System Inspection Manual.